Emotional detachment is always the first and quietest sign before cheating happens. It doesn't start with another man's touch. It begins with a shift in her heart. When a woman begins to disconnect emotionally, the relationship starts to lose its heartbeat. You'll notice it in the smallest moments, the way she no longer looks into your eyes when she speaks, how her laughter doesn't carry the same warmth, how she seems lost in her thoughts even when she's beside you. These aren't just mood changes, they're emotional shifts. It's like she's slowly packing her feelings away, one by one, without saying a word. When a woman emotionally checks out, it's because her heart is seeking connection somewhere else, consciously or unconsciously. She might start talking less, sharing less, and caring less about the things that once bonded you. The deep conversations turn into surface-level talks. You can sense that she's no longer mentally and emotionally invested the way she once was. The truth is, women are emotionally driven beings. Their loyalty, love, and attraction are deeply tied to how connected they feel on a heart level. So when that emotional bond starts breaking, everything else starts to crumble naturally. She no longer seeks your validation or comfort. She may even stop arguing or reacting because she's emotionally exhausted. Not because everything is fine, but because she's already detached. That's when many men make the mistake of thinking things are finally calm, when in reality, it's the silence before the separation. Her peace doesn't mean happiness. It often means she's letting go. You'll notice she's spending more time alone or engaging in activities that don't include you. She'll claim she's just busy or just tired, but you can feel that her mind is elsewhere. She might start sharing her emotional struggles with someone else, a coworker, a friend, or even a stranger who listens. And that's where the danger begins. When emotional intimacy is redirected, it's only a matter of time before physical intimacy follows. Cheating rarely starts with desire, it starts with emotional neglect and distance that builds quietly over time. Most men ignore this sign because they confuse physical presence with emotional presence. They see her at home, smiling sometimes, and think everything's fine. But what they fail to recognize is that emotional distance can exist even in physical closeness. The connection becomes mechanical, the energy shifts, and the warmth is gone. She's there, but her heart isn't. That's the point where men need to act, not with confrontation, but with awareness. When emotional detachment begins, it's not always too late. Sometimes it's a cry for attention, an unspoken plea for emotional reconnection. But if ignored, it grows into resentment, emptiness, and ultimately betrayal. The key is to feel the change before it becomes permanent. Look beyond her words and notice her energy, her tone, her silence. When a woman's emotions fade, she won't always tell you directly, but her actions will. Emotional distance is the first red flag, and the one most men miss until it's too late. When a woman starts to hide things she once freely shared, it's rarely without reason. Secrecy doesn't appear overnight, it creeps in quietly, disguised as privacy or space. At first, it might seem harmless. She starts turning her phone upside down on the table, taking it with her everywhere, or changing her passwords without telling you. Maybe she starts using her phone in another room, staying up late texting, or suddenly becomes defensive when you ask simple questions. She says, "Why don't you trust me?" But deep down, something in her behavior has already changed. The truth is, when a person begins to protect something with excessive privacy, it's because there's something they don't want exposed. Most women value emotional safety, and when they start becoming secretive, it often means their emotional loyalty has begun to shift elsewhere. They're not just protecting messages or conversations. They're protecting an emotional connection, a growing attachment, or a situation they're not ready to explain. In the beginning, she might rationalize it to herself as harmless. It's just a friend. It's nothing serious. He just understands me. But the human heart doesn't know how to stay neutral when emotions are involved. What begins as a private friendship can quickly become an emotional escape from the relationship she's in. You'll notice that she no longer updates you about her day the same way she used to. You'll ask, "How was work?" And she'll give short answers like, "Fine," or "Same as usual." Her phone becomes her comfort zone, not you. You'll see her smile at her screen more often than she smiles at your face. She's emotionally elsewhere, and her secrecy is how she hides that truth. It's not just about messages or calls, it's the shift in energy. She's more protective of her digital world because that's where her attention now lives. What makes the stage so confusing for men is that it's subtle. She'll still act normal most of the time. There's no big fight, no obvious change in affection at first, just small, almost invisible shifts in openness. And that's what makes secrecy so dangerous. It allows emotional infidelity to grow in silence. She might say she just wants privacy, but in reality, privacy becomes a cover for detachment. When her digital world becomes locked away, it's a reflection of her emotional distance in real life. The worst thing most men do at this point is chase for reassurance, asking, begging, checking, accusing. That only pushes her further away. What's needed instead is calm awareness. When secrecy enters a relationship, it's a symptom, not the cause. It's a sign that emotional trust has already weakened. The solution isn't to invade her privacy, but to recognize the growing emotional wall and decide what kind of connection you're willing to fight for. Because once secrecy replaces transparency, the relationship stops being a partnership and becomes a guessing game. And love cannot survive where honesty no longer lives. When a woman starts criticizing you constantly, it often has little to do with the things she's pointing out. The deeper truth is emotional projection. When someone's loyalty begins to fade, the mind looks for reasons to justify the shift. Criticism becomes her shield, a way to make herself feel less guilty for what she's beginning to do or already doing. She'll start noticing things she never cared about before. The way you talk, the way you dress, how you eat, or even your ambitions. Suddenly, nothing seems good enough. What she once found charming now becomes annoying. What she once appreciated now feels like a flaw. It's not that you've changed, it's that her emotional perspective has. This pattern is one of the most painful to experience because it attacks your sense of worth. You start questioning yourself, wondering if you've become lazy, distant, or unattractive. But in many cases, the problem isn't that you've declined, it's that her emotional attachment has redirected. When someone's heart begins to drift toward another person, they subconsciously try to distance themselves from their current partner by focusing on their negatives. It helps them rationalize the betrayal. It becomes a story in their head. I'm not happy anymore. He doesn't understand me, or we've grown apart. These narratives make her emotional shift feel justified. At first, the criticism may seem small or playful, but over time it becomes sharp and repetitive. The tone changes. There's less affection in her words, less patience in her voice. Even your attempts to fix things might be dismissed or mocked. She starts comparing you, not always directly, but subtly. Other men do this. My coworker is so thoughtful, or you never used to be like this. Those comparisons are her way of validating her growing dissatisfaction, which is often more emotional than logical. This constant criticism chips away at connection. It drains communication and replaces understanding with defensiveness. You might start arguing more, trying to prove yourself, but that only strengthens her emotional distance. The truth is, you can't fix what she's not willing to acknowledge. Her criticism isn't a cry for help, it's often a reflection of her inner conflict. Part of her knows she's emotionally detaching, and instead of facing that truth, she projects blame onto you. If you find yourself in this stage, the key is to stay emotionally grounded. Don't let her criticism make you chase validation or lose your sense of confidence. Instead, observe the pattern. Ask yourself, is she trying to connect or to justify disconnecting? When criticism replaces appreciation, it means emotional intimacy has already started to fade. You can't argue your way back into someone's heart. You can only stand in truth and recognize when their energy is no longer aligned with yours. Her constant criticism isn't about your flaws. It's about her internal justification for the emotional distance she's already created. When a woman begins to change her appearance suddenly and dramatically, it can often mean more than just a desire for self-improvement. Change in appearance is one of the most visible yet misunderstood signs that something deeper is shifting inside her. A new wardrobe, makeup routine, hairstyle, perfume, or even an increased interest in fitness can seem harmless on the surface. But in relationships, context is everything. If these changes come at a time when she's emotionally distant, secretive, or less affectionate, they may not be about self-love. They may be about wanting to be noticed by someone else. When a woman starts feeling disconnected in her relationship, she begins to seek validation elsewhere. That validation often begins with the way she looks. She might start dressing differently, not for herself, but to attract attention or feel desirable again. You'll notice subtle changes. She starts wearing clothes she never wore before, showing more confidence when going out, and spending more time preparing her appearance before even simple outings. If she used to be comfortable in casual clothes around you but now puts in extra effort, even for small errands, something has shifted in her motivation. This kind of transformation often follows an emotional void. She might not feel seen, appreciated, or admired in her current relationship, so she unconsciously seeks that spark elsewhere. The new look becomes her silent rebellion, a way to feel desired, to feel alive, to feel like she still has control. She might tell you, "I just want to look better," or "I'm doing it for me." And sometimes that's true. But when it coincides with emotional withdrawal or secrecy, it's rarely about self-care, it's about emotional redirection. What most men fail to realize is that when a woman begins preparing herself for the world, she's also mentally stepping outside the relationship. She's not just changing her outer image, she's exploring a new identity. And that identity often comes with new behaviors, new social circles, and new energy. She may start posting more on social media, engaging more online, or becoming more active in spaces where she receives attention. The new appearance is both armor and bait. It protects her from vulnerability while attracting external validation. This doesn't mean every woman who changes her appearance is cheating or planning to, but when it's combined with emotional distance, lack of communication, or defensiveness, it's a strong indicator that her attention has begun to drift. The key is to notice the why behind the change. If she's growing as a person and inviting you to be part of it, that's healthy. But if she's changing and shutting you out in the process, that's emotional disconnection in disguise. When her reflection in the mirror becomes more important than your reflection in her eyes, it's time to pay attention. Because external transformation often reveals an internal shift, and that shift might be leading her away from you. When a woman starts becoming too busy for you, it's not always about her schedule. It's about her priorities shifting. Time is one of the purest forms of love, and when someone begins to withhold it, it's a sign that emotional investment has already started to fade. At first, it seems innocent. She says she's just overwhelmed with work, tired from life, or needing space to focus on herself. You want to believe her, and for a while you do. But slowly the pattern becomes consistent. Fewer calls, shorter texts, less interest in spending time together, and more excuses for why she can't make plans. It's not that she's suddenly busier, it's that her time is being redirected somewhere else. When a woman is in love and emotionally connected, she naturally makes space for the person she values. She finds moments, even in the busiest days, to show care and stay connected. But when she starts emotionally disconnecting or getting involved with someone else, her attention shifts. You'll notice she starts saying things like, "I just need time to think," or "I've been so tired lately." These phrases become shields to avoid the truth that her energy is no longer centered around you. Her phone becomes quieter when it comes to you, but somehow she's active online or engaged with others. Her presence becomes inconsistent, physically there at times, but emotionally miles away. What most men fail to realize is that emotional energy is limited. When she invests it somewhere else, whether in another person or simply in escaping the relationship, she'll have less left for you. The conversations that once flowed easily now feel forced. The laughter you used to share is replaced with polite smiles or short answers. You start to feel like a guest in a space that used to feel like home. She's still in the relationship, technically, but mentally she's halfway out the door. Her busy phase might also come with subtle changes in behavior. She might start spending more time on her appearance before going out, working late more often, or hanging out with new friends you've never met. She'll tell you it's just social or work-related, but your intuition feels the emotional distance. The hardest part is that she'll make you question yourself. You'll start wondering if you're being too needy, too suspicious, or too controlling. But deep down, you know the truth. Attention never lies. When someone stops making time for you, it's because something else now feels more fulfilling or exciting. At this stage, chasing her only makes things worse. When you beg for her time, you give her the power to decide your worth. The right move is awareness, not desperation. Notice the distance, feel the change, and remember that love shouldn't feel like you're competing for space in someone's schedule. When a woman's time disappears, her loyalty often follows. You can't force someone to make you a priority when they've already decided you're not part of their plans anymore.